Hello, I'm ToycatA, and a type of sentiment we still see online all these years later are comments like this one from who says, "What are Microsoft doing to Minecraft? They are ruining Notch's creation," proceeding on the assumption that if Microsoft hadn't offered Notch $2.5 billion, he wouldn't have sold the game and his original vision would still be intact. However, one of the interesting things about 2021 is we're starting to see what he actually thought about this, and that it wasn't just a fluke decision, because he did respond to Jailhouse, who said, "Dear Notch, I have an honest question. Do you sometimes regret selling Minecraft?" And he responds simply saying, "Not once." And this is an immediate response that, like, hey, he doesn't look back at it and go, "Oh, it's such a terrible thing that I sold it." Instead, he's just happy that it's not his responsibility to deal with the biggest game of all time, I'm sure on some level. But even more interesting than that, you might think like, oh yeah, so it's probably because of the money, right? I mean, $2.5 billion, who's turning that down? And Clint even just directly says the unspoken words and says, "Lamau, like, yeah, I regret becoming a billionaire. Notch can motorboat any set of titties on the planet. He can eat all the salt, pepper, garlic butter steak he wants, no regrets." And Notch just responds, "While that certainly helps, it's not about that." And although that could be some modesty, that could be like, you know, we read into this, like maybe he's just saying it's not about the money because who wants to believe that it is? The truth is that, first of all, actually, it's very bizarre that, you know, the conception that this person has of being a billionaire is like, yep, it's just all motorboating and garlic butter steak. That's very specific and bizarre to me. But second of all, as we know, and as Notch said at the time of selling it in the first place, the deal was not just about the money, it was about making sure that Minecraft wasn't a game that was eternally pinned onto him. The staff wasn't mostly Notch and still is mostly not Notch. In fact, the staff of Minecraft is now 100% not Notch, but still he will be blamed for some things that are added to the game, and that's something that is very hard to deal with. Being the figurehead for something as huge as the movement of Minecraft is something that I think would be hard for anyone, and that's why when people say like, oh, I wish Notch was still in charge, realistically, he doesn't want to be in charge. He wasn't in charge even before he sold it, and that's kind of the reality of Minecraft. No one would be able to figurehead the game for this many years in a row, and that's why even Jeb has kind of taken steps back despite being the lead game designer for the Java version of the game, and indeed the whole game as a whole. Speaking of, by the way, the Java version of the game, Banana Splits raises a very interesting question because he says, "I have a question. What do you think the main version of Minecraft is? Bedrock or Java?" Java because it has less glitches and is more taken care of, but Bedrock Edition as well, because Bedrock Edition, it just says Minecraft, and on Java it says Minecraft Java Edition. I don't know what the answer is. I usually play on Bedrock for servers and Java Edition for survival, and Bedrock Edition again to play with my friends, like so ToycatA can see. And this question is super interesting to me because, you know, a lot of people don't ever think about it. They just assume the version of Minecraft they play is the main version, and there's that other weird one. On a lot of forums online, you'll see a lot of direct hatred towards the Bedrock Edition, which I think is kind of bizarre. But the real answer to this is like, I don't think there is necessarily a main version. There is clearly the main version that Microsoft sees, the one they pour the most resources into, and there's the main version the world sees, so that is Minecraft Bedrock. It runs on a lot of devices, and it's not really seen as a cohesive version of the game. You just assume that Minecraft is running on lots of different places, and it's the same version of the game regardless of where that is. But if you are someone on YouTube, you are someone on the Twitterverse, social media, the Reddit, forums, any form of Minecraft community, almost certainly coalesces around the Java edition of the game. And this is a very bizarre split you see. I think it's because the Java edition has been going for longer, it had a more loyal community, it was the grassroots that really allowed Minecraft to succeed, and, you know, on YouTube it's therefore still the primary version played of the game. I get comments on every single video that goes any amount of viral outside of my audience being like, how is ToycatA doing this? Because they don't even know that Bedrock exists, or they don't assume that what they're watching is Bedrock Edition gameplay. So this whole divide between those two worlds is what leads to a lot of the fracturing. It's what leads to people hating the other version of the game. Personally, I think you can just simplify the divide and say there are more Minecraft Bedrock players, but the people on Minecraft Java care a lot more about that version of the game, and that's why you're gonna almost for the foreseeable future see both versions exist side by side, receiving the same updates at roughly the same time. And you know, any smart YouTubers make the switch to playing a little bit of both in some ways, and it's very bizarre because no other game has two entirely different code bases, two entirely different versions of the game, but that is one of the weird quirks that makes Minecraft beautiful. And in case you're curious about my audience, I did a Twitter poll recently, and the results, as you can see, are very close to 50-50. There's a few percent playing Legacy Console still, but most people are directly split between Java players and Bedrock players, and I find that interesting. So if you're Java and you watch these videos, I think that's cool that you expand and you see a different version of the game. And if you're someone who plays the Bedrock version of the game, like me, then cool, we're in a little club. And the biggest benefit really is multiplayer. I'd say servers aren't the biggest. I'd say servers are very not the biggest benefit, but multiplayer in all its forms are definitely something that is very great because of that, compatibility of the Bedrock version. Anyway, with that said, let's move into the next question, which comes in from Dasaki V, or Dasaki 5. You know what? They say, here's a question that's been bothering me, ToycatA. Why, when you talk about Minecraft's most pointless enchantments, do you skip Silk Touch on Shears? It's still a valid pairing on Bedrock, and I decided to check this very briefly, and I did in fact find out that you can put Silk Touch on Shears, and this is against what the wiki says. The wiki says that on both versions of Minecraft, these are the only valid pairings, and so yeah, Silk Touch on Shears is in fact the, I would say, the most useless pairing. In case you're curious, you used to require them for, I think, getting cobwebs and a few other resources. Now Silk Touch Shears are basically the default shears, and putting them on there is entirely worthless, or we could say a flex. Also, when looking at this list, obviously everyone knows that you can put mending on shears, if at the very least, because I did it in my Let's Play. Everyone knows you can put unbreaking on shears, and you might know about the curse of vanishing, but this was the first time I realized you could also put efficiency on shears. Like, it totally makes sense, because you do technically use shears to break certain blocks, mainly wool, and mainly also the, I guess you also use it for leaves, but you wouldn't really want efficiency on that. But I find this to be so bizarre that efficiency 5 is a real enchantment someone might at some point put on their shears, and I can't decide if it's a really good idea, because it's like, again, it's the ultimate flex that actually has some value, or if it's really dumb. So I'd like to hear your thoughts, and let's be honest, at some point I'm just going to put efficiency 5 on my shears, but this is a weird little rabbit hole that you've dived me into. So the most useless enchantment on Bedrock is officially Silk Touch on Shears, but I'm sure it exists by mistake, and I'm sure most developers don't even know that it's a thing anymore. I'm sure it's just there by accident, but accidents don't prevent things from being important, just like this next subscriber, Bat3P, who asks, oh wow, how long have I been subscribed? And as you can see, if we scroll up on the page, they've been subscribed for 5 years. So in the last comment section, so many people asked, hey, how long have I been subscribed for? I'd love to know. And it's interesting because this is the first time I realized that YouTube doesn't have public subscription stats for the subscribers. Only I get to know if someone's been subscribed for 5 years, like Bat3P, by the way, thank you. But only I get to know this data, and I think this is a bit of a flaw in the system. I'd love to see it fixed, but in the meantime, as a one-off little special, if you are subscribed and you have your subscriptions public, that is a requirement. If your subscriptions aren't public, I can't tell, no one can tell, even you can't, but if you have your subscriptions public on YouTube, and then leave a comment down below, and I can tell you how long you've been subscribed for, just in case you want me to satisfy your curiosity. Again, just this one time, not in future. And also, the easier way, if you want to keep track of that, obviously this is a monthly membership cost that not everyone wants to jump into, but if you want to become a member on the channel, that's a monthly subscription that obviously helps out the channel, and that tells you how long you've been a member for, and it gives you a new badge when you hit the 3 months, the 6 months, the 12 months, and the 2-year mark. So yeah, if you want to have a fun way of displaying it publicly, that's a way to do that, because personally, I think it's cool when I realized that I'd been subscribed to someone for 8 years recently, and it was like a big milestone. I wish there was some way to show that and be like, yeah, I'm one of the OGs here, or something like that. I think it's dumb, but just in case that's you, that's a thing you can do. Also, just in case you're not already subscribed, can I quickly mention, like, hey, I'd really like to hit 2 million subscribers this year, and I don't want to do the YouTube thing where I go, oh, YouTube's probably unsubscribed you should check right now if you're subscribed, or the whole like, hey, did you know 84% of people aren't subscribed, wouldn't you like to join them? But instead, I just like to be like, hey, if you're watching this video, there's a chance you're not already subscribed, and subscribing would help me out, and it would also show you more of my videos in the future. So if you haven't considered doing so, now's a great opportunity. And just in case you've taken the opportunity and decided, thank you, but let's move into the next question, which comes in from Minor Mansion 123, who says, what's going on with hardcore on Bedrock? Are we getting it, and when? And as you can see, this is one of the most popular questions, and it's sad because I totally agree. Hardcore on Bedrock? Yes, please, give it to me as soon as possible. It was one of the things that we heard that it was coming in 2021, but the interesting thing is that Minecraft fired not only half of their community managers, but in particular, the community manager that had mentioned that. So basically, they fired the person that said it would be coming for entirely unrelated reasons. Actually, for discrimination because of autism, in case you're curious. There's a whole fun case we should perhaps dive into of that. But for now, let's just say they fired the person who made that claim. And so what's going on with hardcore on Bedrock? We don't know, because obviously the official plans are always focused on many other things. Just porting over a Java feature to Bedrock for the case of parity is something that should be easy, but with hardcore in particular, because of all the platforms, I'm sure there's some issues with that. And so the answer is soon. We hope. It was going to be 2020, but I mean, look at your watches now and see how it doesn't say 2020 anymore. Actually, my watch doesn't tell me the year. If your watch tells you the year, then I think you've got too smart of a watch. But with that said, let's move to the next question from Mungo McGee. Is it only possible to access the marketplace on Bedrock? The answer is yes. This is one of those fun Bedrock Java differences, because the Bedrock places, the marketplace has been accepted as the only way to get maps on the console versions of Minecraft where there aren't downloads. And for a lot of mobile users, it's just easier than going outside the thing. The status quo for Minecraft Bedrock is using the marketplace. It is only possible to access it there. If you want to download any of the things, it is only going to be on Bedrock. And I think it would be a very hard sell to ever bring it to Java, because Java players have had, again, like 11 years of experience at this point of downloading their mods, their maps, etc., not through the marketplace. It would be, even though it would allow, mod makers to get paid for their work, I think the users would be too far against it, and that's why the marketplace is only on Bedrock, not on Java. And it kind of goes back into that early question that it's too hard to say, and also it goes back into the early question about Notch's vision. I think in reality, the map makers are very happy with it, and the people purchasing are usually happy with the decision. But again, when it comes to modifying the status quo, such as bringing the marketplace to Java, you can expect that not to happen for a very long time, or at least they're going to have to hide it if they do. It'd have to be a very slow rollout, and as a result, they just presume it's not worth their time and their money. Speaking of time and money, Vyom Sharma says, is there a possibility that the Deserts and Savannah update could come after Caves and Cliffs, September 2021 maybe? And I wanted to talk about something that has been on my mind for a bit here, because we used to have this idea that there'd be a big update every year, then a small update in the winter. But if you look at the last 4 updates, if we just exclude the Buzzy Bees update, which again was widely seen as like a fall from form, a fall from the greatness that Minecraft updates have been. If you look at 1.13, the update Aquatic, you look at 1.14, the Village update, you look at 1.16, the Nether update, and Caves and Cliffs, these are mega content updates. They really revitalize an entire part of Minecraft, and I think as a result of that, seeing smaller updates is less likely. But I also think that all the themes of those updates is taking an entire gameplay mechanic and altering it. Even though Jeb even said they'd be focusing on like probably a biome or a feature at a time, I think just seeing a Deserts update or a Deserts and Savannah update is very unlikely by itself, because of the fact that that's not so inspiring. Like, just finding that one biome in your game has changed, not that great. In the same way that caves without the cliffs without the caves would be such a boring update. It's the cliffs update, the mountains are getting higher. Like, it makes sense because we're altering the underground, we're altering the sky, they're even changing the height limit, it looks like, to get there. These are the things that make the update exciting. You'd have to have Desert, Savannah, and then a whole other gameplay mechanic to make people excited for it. And that's something you should keep in mind with any speculation. When you hear someone say that an update might be coming out in this time, just keep in mind that they probably want to do bigger updates than before, and they want to focus on a broad part of Minecraft, perhaps like the end, perhaps like altering all the natural structures, or any of these big ideas. I think those are potentially likely. With that said though, let's move into Gamer Blues, who says, so what's with the ore house, lol? And you know, I'm so offended. How did you think this was an ore house? This is a desert temple made entirely from iron ore. How many hours of mining did it take to get the over 1,000 iron ore blocks that I'm using here? Let's not ask that question, okay? Let's instead ask the question of, you know what, doesn't it look great? Don't you like the look of the Iron Ore Desert Temple? Isn't this a wonderful addition to my stone biome, or my cave biome? I think it is, and if you disagree, then you know what I disagree with? The next question, because Brian Fudge says, what about a meat sword? Because in the last week's Q&A, I mentioned how we should totally have meat armor. I mean, if we're having redstone armor and copper armor and all these everyone wants to suggest a new type of armor, but it's a very rare thing that we see in Minecraft. And so if we could have copper armor anyway, why can't we have pork armor? And if we can have pork armor, why can't we have pork blocks and all of the other meat blocks? And these meat blocks are Let's just say they're beautiful. And in response to that, Brian Fudge says, what about a meat sword? And you know, I think we should be able to have meat swords. I think we should be able to duel with those meat swords in Minecraft. And I think the fact that we don't have meat swords is a serious disappointment. I also think it's pretty weird that people only suggest having new armor types. Why don't we have like copper swords? Why don't we have redstone swords? Why don't we have meat swords? Because, you know, this is what people want in their lives. And with that said, let's move into the last and final question, shall we? The most important one of all, because Harvey Barnard says, anyone else been missing the live streams? And you know what? I wanted to address this one straight on. I am currently, I'm semi-stranded in the north of England. I got here before there was a nationwide lockdown in the UK, and now I'm just kind of here. And I wanted to stream while I was here at some point, but kind of crucial issue. By the way, if you want to see my setup, it's very weird and tiny. But the issue is the internet here is so bad, it takes 24 hours to upload a Let's Play video, which, you know, that's actually a big issue. How am I going to do Let's Play Monday in time? Let's not think about that. And instead, let's say that, like, okay, so doing Let's Plays, kind of a hard thing. Uploading any video, in fact, I think the shortest upload time I've had was 5 hours, and that's because I started at like 11 a.m. in the morning. I've had no luck with uploading videos in any real speed, and even like watching things can get real rough sometimes. I've actually just taken to using the public Wi-Fi networks around here. Yeah, you better believe your boy's on the public Starbucks network, or I think there's a Greg's across the street that has Wi-Fi for some reason that is somehow more powerful than the Wi-Fi the people at this place paid for. But anyway, that said, there are not going to be live streams right now, but in case you're missing them like I am, I will be back to live streaming on Thursday. I think it's the 21st of December, January. Thursday, the 21st of January, 2021. I like this little bit of a break we've taken, but I do intend to get back to streaming. And if you're missing them too, 21st of January 2021, assuming that I don't die in a house fire. And indeed, you know what? If you are subscribed to this channel, I hope you don't die in a house fire. If you're not subscribed to this channel, think about how in 5 years' time, you'll be like, wow, I wish I subscribed to IBX ToycatA so he could say that I was subscribed for 5 years. And then think about the fact that you are more likely to die in a house fire if you're not subscribed to the channel. Think about it. I mean, if there's even a chance I'm right, it's better to subscribe than not to subscribe, right? This is Pascal's wager, but it's talking about house fires and subscribing, and that's why hit that button. I want to hit 2 million this year, and that's why I'm gonna tell you about it a few times, and I hope that you enjoy that. And if you don't enjoy that, then I hope you enjoy these calming, soothe vibes off the outro. Goodbye.